story of Los Angeles, and St. Louis, and New York, which was laid out in 3 days by these economists appointed by the governor. They walked Long Island for a weekend, and then laid out the most coercive grid they could design. So where's the open space? Even though we grew for thousands of years in villages where the commons was everywhere. Someone decided from West Coast to East Coast that this is how it would be. And where before, this was a place where our lives came together and we grew as people and our lives became easier and we became more expressive and we all knew the songs. Here, we live in isolation. We don't tend to know the people that we live among. We leave at the beginning of the day to go work among people we don't tend to get to know. We come back at the end of the day to live among people we don't tend to get to know, because someone has zoned our lives who we've never even met, such that living and working has become disintegrated. Well, of course, the answer to all of that is localization. It's time to act. It's been so time to act for so long. But in so many ways, the influences, the powerful influences over us, like the newspaper. Oh no, here's more of what's wrong today. More wrong. Go to sleep, go back to work. No, we're not going to do that anymore. We're hearing people say, 10 years left? Whatever. Okay, I came back from all these village-based experiences in the late 80s and early 90s. And I was in such acute culture shock. This guy that had been holding my face in his hands, and I was crying, and he was telling me, no, we are one family. We came from the same place. We're returning to the same place no matter what happens, even though the future looks so dark and nebulous. It looks like we will be formless and there will be no light. Like, that's total death of the world he's talking about. He's like, still we will be together as we have always been. Like, whoa, what a beautiful thing to hear. And he's like, okay, no one in this village will tell you there's a chance. Watch the trees falling all around. You know, Pemex, the oil company's taking down the trees everywhere, and oil is spilling over the land. He's like, no one in this village will tell you there's a chance, but I will say that there is one chance, but only if you can feel everything that's on the line. Like every birth that ever was, every kiss, every love, you know, everything that was ever created or ever given is on the line. The whole human story, if you could feel that, and not get depressed, but be like, oh, you know? Like, Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman do not exist, except as metaphors for the best of what is inside of you. And that's mythology, and that's the power of symbols and stories. I came back from that cultural experience, and I just had to look at this Monopoly board at my dad's house. I laid it out, and I was like, okay, I can see this looks kind of fun, colorful money. I could choose to be a little schnauzer today, or a little race car, or a hat. Yeah, that looks fun. Okay, oh my God. So we're building houses, aspiring to tear them down in order to put in a hotel. But if you just get close to the houses and take out your magnifying glass, you can see all these families being displaced. Oh no! What about our children? All of our neighbors and our friends and our jobs? Oh no! Okay, and then you step back again and you're like, oh my God, the only commons here is a jail and a parking lot. Oh my God! You notice that it's like Vermont Avenue. Everything that's for sale is a street. Every form of commons is either missing or for sale here. It doesn't take a whole lot of research to find that the Parker brothers configured monopoly as a way of playing the National Land Ordinance of 1785, which was when Roman colonial planning was blueprinted over everything that the Continental Congress could affect. And they knew exactly what it would do because the Spanish had been doing it to indigenous people already for a long time. Except in the United States, for the first time in the history of the colonial grid, even the Romans, even the Mexicans, go south, you'll see it, Zocalo's plazas. In the United States, it was the first time no public squares were included in the ordinance. The first time in the history of the world. You wonder why we have such acute, like manifestations that come from social isolation. How are we even supposed to know each other without a social nexus? What good is freedom of assembly without a place to assemble? And about that grandmother walking to the store who has to stand on the corner with her ligaments aching, what about her? The fact that she needs a bench, and not just one. By rebuilding our physical landscape as a reflection of more than just white guys between 35 and 65, but everyone else, women, people of color, we will rebuild our democracy, we will rebuild our economy, we will re-engage our ecology, and we will find ourselves again. Okay, so the best of what an intersection can be is like this. The intersection between Pisa, Milan, and Rome in the little hill town of Siena in the hills of Tuscany, where they come together, teenagers are kissing and rolling down the slope of the piazza every summer evening, strumming their guitar, or they're out here for this massive horse race in a space big enough to accommodate the whole village. And over here, another intersection that's more typical on this continent, you wait for the light to change so that you can hopefully go somewhere that gets to be a place. These are both intersections. I think it's kind of interesting that the dominant institutions both have arches, but that's about where the similarity ends. This is the palace of the people. This is where the people gather and make choices and celebrate, and has everything to do with why this gets to be a place according to our human nature. And over here, well, corporate culture, the imposition of the grid, are just different chapters of the same story. Okay, we're sitting in our cars. We know something's up. Urban planning has been seriously misdirected, like the federal government, banking, Detroit, too many people at the top were making decisions for their own benefit that would force us into an automobile-dependent and oil-consumptive society in order to become the biggest economic player in the world in order to dominate. And meanwhile, we thought we were just trying to feed our families. Okay, so we wait for the light to change so we can surge and surge and surge towards work, and then hopefully come back, and all the while we're going like, God, I need more time. My relationships are falling apart. I hardly ever get to see my kids. And now we're like, oh my God, I can't afford this anymore. And now we're realizing that the oceans are rising and the temperatures are rising, and every time we go to work to just try to feed our family, we're hurting the world. There is no mother of any child, nor any conscientious father of any child that ever chose this destiny. And this is what I'm getting at. It is our social ecology that is the solution. Will we choose to come together and have the courage to stand up and get beyond asking permission and undertake our birthright or not? Time is short. Someone's been making choices at a macro scale that affect all of our lives, and it is done. It cannot persist this way anymore. We've seen this with Wall Street again, in a way that we're not even sure if it was accidental anymore, are we? Okay, Portland, Oregon. We're going to talk about a city that has gotten its shit together in such a massive way, and yet it is not perfect. And yet something has begun to change in Portland that's so dramatic that it's making the city famous in the world. I'm going to use the metaphor of the revolt of the pawns here to talk about what's happening. So you've got a couple of community organizers here. They trade sides in the middle of the night. A light one goes over here and a dark one goes over here, but they met in the middle and they talked about their experiences. And they went over, and the dark one here went over to agitate among these pawns. The light one went over here to agitate among these pawns. This is like the 60s and 70s, basically, all right? In a lot of towns, but in Portland, Oregon in particular. So these guys are in there talking with the other pawns. They're like, hey, you guys, remember what happened yesterday? Like, we went out and we attacked those other guys. We don't even know their names. Like, we killed each other, and then the tall, oppressive ones with funny hats in the back row. Like, then they went out and killed themselves, and the whole thing, this game is designed to end. It's totally unsustainable. We're playing war on the grid. You know? And the other pawns are like, what are you talking about? What are you talking about yesterday? What's yesterday? You know, what are you talking about the game? We're pawns. This is what we do. We have our boxes. We stay in them. Okay. So fortunately, they get together in small groups with facilitators. And you know, a lot of people are crying like, oh my God, my childhood was so hard, and people are hugging each other. Then they go to the back row and they confront their oppressors who are totally in denial. They're all defensive, like, who, us? Oh my God, no, we never did. We never took more than our share. Yeah, we can't do this anymore, okay? Because you know how this works. You know, the people that lead the uprising end up becoming oppressors themselves. So we have to fundamentally change all of our patterns, practice all this inclusivity and forgiveness, hopefully, and make it more look like this, where people are like, hey, I've got a great idea, and somebody, oh, the first thing that happens here is the community organizers are like, okay, everyone get out of your box, try a different shape, no hitting, okay? So like, let's all try to stay on the board, no one